Welcome to episode 20 of NWA Powerrr Stand and Defend. If I believe that's the right one. This is an interesting episode of NWA Powerrr, guys. I gotta say that not much match work in here, but wondering some decisions that were made. And you wonder where they're going with this. Now, before I get started, Circle Squared episode 2 and 3 will happen next week. So there will be no NWA Powerrr, so there will be no review of it. I'm not doing the Circle Squared review of it. And I might do the Super Powerrr episode, because there is going to be one March 17th. So I probably will do that and do a review of that. But Circle Squared, I don't want to do that because I'd rather leave that blank, due to the fact that this is more important to really absorb it and get a good gauge of the people than just reviewing them. That's the reason why I'm not going to do it. Now, Zicky Dice versus... it's in my face. I don't know why that Zicky Dice versus Ricky Starks happened and Ricky Starks lost? Why? You see Zicky Dice in my face, and I'm confused beyond stink why they went there. I don't know why. Now, there might be a good story that's going to go with Ricky Starks. I'm not sure. I don't know where to go with this. I don't know. So, when they start back up on, maybe Super... Yes, they may address this on Super Powerrr on the 17th, but why? I don't know why. I didn't think Ricky Starks was doing a bad job, and then building up into him going up against Nick Aldis sounds like a very good, interesting thing they could have done after the Crockett Cup. But I don't know. Now, we had a little segment after that. When it came to Ziggy, he was happy as hell, but then Latimer came out calling for Joe Gillum to come over because he sounded like he wanted to rip him a new one. Now, pretty much, Latimer said this: You little bloody pain in the ass, what do you want? You want my woman to talk? And he pretty much says, this is my woman. In real life, they are together. But my woman next week is going to do something. She's going to talk. So he pretty much said, fuck off. You're going to get what you want. Now, this will be interesting to see Camille talk. Now, that kind of leads me into the May and Sal segment. May Valentine and Sal Romaro, I believe that's his name. I still don't know him yet. They had a little segment, a little interview with, well, here's the question. Where they're going with this between Sal, between May, and between Isaac, because the talk between Sal and May was pretty cool, saying pretty much, I love doing my blog talking about me being in the NWA, and now I have a clothing line, well, lingerie line. You can see with the curves she's got in my face. She got curvy body. But, see, now they're best friends, and she says, my man Isaac has no problem with this. But then he comes out angry as hell, wanting to shatter the other arm of Sal. And she's screaming at him, don't you dare do it. Don't you dare. Don't you do it. So you wonder where this triangle is going to go. You wonder how far they're going to go with this triangle. Admittedly, I'd rather see this triangle than what we saw with, and get this simple triangle is better than what happened with Bobby Lashley, Lana, and Rusev. Because they made it really cringy with Rusev. They made it really cringy with Bobby Lashley, and definitely with Lana. Where are they now? Nowhere. They gave them so much TV time, so much emphasis, and didn't really lead anywhere. Now, Shooter Stevens and no. Let me take that back. Let me crank this back. I got to. Question mark and the dummy. What was that? The dummy. I don't know where they went with that. It's in my face. It was stupid, talking about how how the question marks country began and all the madness, and I'm going like, what? It made me laugh. It made me laugh. But then you have Shooter Stevens saying, look, we want gold. He doesn't say karate. He learned we want belts. That's kind of biting off of what happened with AEW and talking about this is wrestling. Compared to Vince, he doesn't like to call titles belts. He likes to call them championship or titles. He says belts, which was a cool thing. He calls out and he says, we got to wake these guys up. Please wake them up. And that is the Rock and Roll Express. And he says, look, I need your help here. We want to go after the world titles, but we need a little bit of help here. Have a match with us to give us something, and it'll make it worth your while. And he's saying he's going to give them a chance at acting. And they pretty much said, we don't know nothing about acting. We just know how to whoop ass. Next week, us, you, in the ring. Shooter Stevens say, what are you talking about? Everything is fine. And then winking at them. And trying to get things done with a stuntman. I mean, I'm not being specific here, guys, but it was good to see that the Rock and Roll Express is going to be used in a capacity that can help two other guys get over some more to try and get the titles, which they could get it. Now, the last chance match, which was a tornado tag. You got the Dawsons versus C.W. Anderson, who was an ECW original. I don't really know him because I didn't really see much of ECW back in the 90s. Like I said, my ex-wife didn't want me to watch wrestling because she didn't like it. And I was working like crazy next to that. I was doing like 10-hour days, 12-hour days, some days. And I come home at 8 or 9 at night, up with her, up with my son, stay until almost 1 in the morning or 12 in the morning. And then I got to get up really early, and that was like 6 in the morning. Wiped out. So I didn't have no time to watch ECW much. But seeing that the Dawsons lost their match, which wasn't a bad match, I did enjoy it. Dave and Zane Dawson, I'm kind of surprised that now supposedly they lost their contract's about to expire. So now they're the ones that's going to leave, but Connolly and C.W. Anderson, look, I like Connolly, but they've done absolutely nothing with him. So if they got rid of Connolly and letting C.W. Anderson be seen, but then later could be coming in after that, would be understandable. But getting rid of the Dawsons, if they're getting rid of them, I'm actually kind of surprised. This was a bit of a surprise for me personally. But that's just me, you guys tell me below. Finally, if I'm missing anything, I'm sorry. You got the Bouncers versus Eli Drake and James Storm. I still want to see Tim Storm and James Storm work together. And what happened to Tim Storm? He wasn't on the show. That's just me. I kind of wanted to see Tim Storm and Thunder Rosa, because they didn't really do that much with the women on the show at all. I mean, next to May, that was it. Next to her saying, when you see Camille talk, you ain't ready for her. But that's the only woman we had on the show. And I was kind of surprised. I would have thought they'd bring out Thunder Rosa and Tim Storm again. But that's just me. But anyway, pretty much the Bouncers with the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro. I just love how the Pope talks. He just knows the business. And he pretty much says, I got the best team that's going to win these titles. And pretty much the Bouncers didn't talk too bad. What was it? What is it? Bad City Brody? I can't remember this guy's name. I'm not even going to worry about trying to remember his name. I just like the Bouncers. They just have a personality I like. That I'll eventually learn the names of the guys. But when they got into the ring, this was a thing. This match was a thing. You got two really big guys working with two smaller guys that are considered medium-sized guys. Normally. It was an interesting match to say the least. And next to the Pope being with the Bouncers, you got Eddie Kingston with the champion. He's in my face. My question is, when is that match going to be announced? It's got to be announced before the Crockett Cup happens. I'm waiting for that match. I want to see Kingston go up against the Pope. They're building a decent story. It would be really good if Homicide appears when that story finally reaches its climax at the Crocker Cup, if they're not foolish enough to put it on regular TV. Well, YouTube, because they don't have a TV deal yet. In the end, you got pretty much the champions retaining, which I have no problem with. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised like I was with Zicky Dice winning over Ricky Starks if he had won. And I still want to know what they're gonna do with Zicky Dice. What are they gonna do with him? But the Pope outside, you got Kingston inside chomping at the bit. You can see him in my face. He wanted the Pope in that ring so bad, but the Pope won't go there. Good. Drag this mess out, because that is how stories are written. You don't always have to get a story quick, that's it. Sometimes you need to build it up after a couple of months and make it mean something. Sometimes you don't even have a fight. You can just have other people fight and these guys just chomping at the bit to get at one another, but they don't. Sometimes playing it out like this actually works, and other times it doesn't. There ain't no lie. You got to be physical sooner or later with certain situations. And with this, for the Crocker Cup coming up soon within a month, I think a month and a half, you can get away with these two not touching each other. You can. If they do touch, they should not be fighting in the ring. There should not be no tag match. They should just beat up on each other briefly and people pull them apart. That is the way it needs to go. Like Kingston needs to be pulled off the Pope to make sure that he does not kill him. But this is just me. This was a good show. Didn't really have much much wrestling, which I kind of wish it did a little bit more wrestling. Like maybe one more match would have been adequate, but it was for what it was. And why did Zicky Dice win? Tell me how you feel about it. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace!